I'm a huge fanboy of Death by Auto. I think I managed to tell you this every single time that I see you.
Come on, yeah.
I feel the same way. I mean, I've always loved your pedals. Everything about them, you know, like all the concepts you come up with, all the art. She's the best knobs.
Oh yeah, hey, you know, yeah, you gotta spend some time on all that stuff. I don't know.
And again, yeah, like as far as collaborations goes, I'm number one on this.
Oh,
So I'm happy that it worked out.
awesome.
Not
I was
just once,
so
but twice.
stoked. Yeah, it was amazing. I like the Space Bazooka sound, of course, which is like this one where any of that stuff, but I love how it's like so just like dark, like, and when it kind of starts to almost like sound like it's like rippling the speaker or something. It sounds like there's like one of like Battlestar Galactica or something like that, and here comes the whatever those evil people were called, something like that. It's just such a cool, like, I don't know, it just sounds like a sound from a weird distant memory or evil dream or something like that. I don't know, I love that. It's so awesome. It sounds like even kind of like my grandmother had one of those organs that you could like flip all the buttons, and I would always try to flip them all on and see how many different like sounds you could play at once with it. Yeah, and it's kind of got that sort of sound where it's like the devil stole your organ or something.
It's an old parlor organ.
Yeah, it's an old parlor organ trick. Yeah, exactly. What is your favorite mode on the EQD side?
What's like my favorite setting?
Yeah, what's your favorite setting?
I mean, I kind of like exactly what you did. I like the delay up just a little bit.
Oh yeah, that is cool.
But where it just sounds like bowed guitars. So just heavy. Like alternate between like where it sounds like Deep Purple organ, and then you can go back to bowed guitars.
There you go. Yeah. You asked me to do this, and I could just tell that you were serious, and I was like, "Wow, awesome! This is gonna be so fucking cool." And then I think you had said you were working on some sort of concept or something, and I don't know.
I don't know, the details of that are foggy because there's also like the fucking pandemic going on. But
totally,
I remember Reverb like reaching out because they were like getting to the end of doing the pedal movie, and like they're trying to like brainstorm ideas for like people to collaborate with. And I was like, I'd love to do this, but I only want to do with this audio. And they're like, great, done.
Oh, that's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I remember anyway.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, that sounds like it could be about right. I think now I remember the stuff with the pedal movie, and that was like even that extra motivation because we're gonna do this and it's gonna kind of promote the pedal movie, maybe, right, or something.
I think there was like a pretty fast timeline.
Yeah, totally.
Too. And I remember like just trying to brainstorm like how could we do this really quickly, but like make it interesting, and it was like designing with the limitation of like we have this one circuit board that like we could probably put any programs into. Let's try that.
That was so cool. That was right at that time too when we were really getting into like doing this kind of programming, and so it was like so cool because it was like, oh yeah, we could totally make that happen. And you all had already been doing that stuff with a bunch of the projects that were already like amazing pedals, super creative, like super awesome. So it was like really cool. And then I remember, I think, is it that you like sent me the program, or did you send me maybe a working pedal?
Yeah, I think I sent you a pedal with like a version of this program in it. Yeah.
And I was like, oh crap. Like when we got that in the mail, I was like, we need to step up our game because this is incredible. This is so sick. It was like so insane. And I never even heard that you could even do anything like that with that like kind of programming. Because I don't know, I think even before you would send it to me, like I'd program something which is like, oh yeah, this will be kind of a cool program. And then you sent that and it was so interactive and all of the knobs kind of did so much that sort of morphed the sounds into all these different places. I was like, definitely need to do something that at all even comes close to this. And was that this when the pandemic was going on?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was, because I remember I was just like hibernating in my basement in my pajamas
because that's
for
what
like that whole year.
Yeah, because that's what I remember about when designing this. I was like, did I lock myself in my house on purpose, or sort of like? But I was like there for I don't even know, like a month or something, just working on this design, kind of like over and over again, trying to make it better and better, and then like sharing it with like Noah or someone over at Death by Audio. And being like, how about this? And then we'd be like, but their design can do this. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, that would be cool if we did something else. So yeah, then it just kind of turned into, I don't know, was my try to like, I don't know if it's the right thing, but I wanted to sort of like complement your design in like a totally different way, so that's kind of what I came up with.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they work really well together. It's like there's enough similarities between the two, but they're completely different. And I too, like when I got your program, I was like, this thing is awesome. Mine sounds really boring.
Oh, come on.
It's like very sterile,
oh, no.
like predictable, like synth sounds. But I think they work really well together.
Totally,
like,
yeah. I mean, I took even like kind of, I was thinking, I always have these different kinds of thoughts about like what's going to be the most useful for like every type of person or something, whether you incorporate that in a pedal or not. But so I really tried to like design for ways of which like someone who is into something else would also be doing some shit or something.
Well, that's the one thing that I think is like super interesting about your side of it, like where you can just move this filter control just a little bit and it is a totally different sound, and I feel like it also like dictates the way that you play. Like at least for me anyway, like I'll play something totally different when it's here versus like when it's up here, and then like if you're using like an expression pedal, and you can kind of move it a little bit, and it gets real flangy. I mean, makes me want to play spookier.
Yeah, heck, yeah, there you go. Spooky's good. Yeah, and then you put out the crazy secret mode.
That was cool. Like the like where you can kind of amplify like the pick attack and it like gets stuck in there and it kind of creates like a rhythmic thing.
That's really cool.
That sounds cool. I feel like you got to play around with it enough to like learn how like
to make.
If I do these weird sounds, they get trapped in the buffer and repeated, and then like,
and that stuff is even so cool where it's like there's like percussive sounds that are becoming like a-tonal.
That was the word I was looking for.
And it's, I don't know, I just always even loved that too. There was like for the longest time I had this like ring modulator, and I was like, would always try to put it on things and it would just kind of sound so terrible unless you were doing something totally bananas. But then you realize like, oh wow, run like the drums through it or something. How sick is this? This is cool because it's not like the notes really matter as much anymore or something. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's neat to hear all that stuff kind of going on at once and everything. Awesome.
The first version of this pedal was out for like a year, and somebody, I think it was Ram, who works in our shipping area you met earlier today, was like, oh yeah, like that third mode. And I was like, what are you?
Wait a minute, what are you talking about?
And he's like, oh yeah, Mike Tolan put a switch on this thing, and now, like, what? And then I like had to go get one and was like, what are you guys talking about? And then realized like, I don't even know what I was working on. I mean, it definitely sounds really Rainbow Machine.
Has some elements of that for sure, yeah.
I'm sure it definitely wasn't like a version of the Rainbow Machine. It was like 10 years after the fact, but I don't know what I was doing. but it was accidentally left on the EEPROM. Like we used an EEPROM copier to make all those, because it was like a limited run. We didn't bother to have them made, so we just programmed them all in-house.
Totally.
So there was a bunch of programs on the master one, which is like...
But who knows what the other programs are?
Yeah, who does? Thing. Like you could, there's some stuff you could do to find out. See what other horrible ideas I had.
Whenever like kind of designing things, I'm always telling people who are also working on these things like, okay, well, let's take it to the point at which it, sounds terrible, or like, let's go beyond. Well, I want to hear what it sounds like when you break the distortion or whatever. And what's that point? It's just so we can find out where like the limits are of what you're playing. And then I even like to do that as an artist or whatever. I'm like trying to, create sounds that, work for me and are kind of experimental and super fucked up and crazy, and it's awesome to just have that option to do that stuff. So to have this mode, which is kind of insane, is just, it's so wicked. Like when we were making all these demos and stuff for the video, for the pedal, it's like so cool to be going back and forth and in this insane mode. It just transforms what at all you were playing, even like the Earthquaker mode as well too, into something that's like, it's beyond what you would have even done.
Yeah, like no one would choose to do that, but it's like you force yourself into like trying to make something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like,
I'm a big fan. I don't know why I like it so much, but I like that atonal pitch shifting where it's like just two things that just shouldn't go together at all. But like I don't know. It sort of forces you to try to play differently.
Which is awesome, because I feel like so often we're like kind of bound to, okay, well, let me arrange, let me put the D before the G, and then maybe we'll put the C at the, trying to arrange chords or whatever. So often to make a song or something. Maybe it would be better if I went to the E here, and then you eventually realize like, what the heck am I worried about all this stuff for? Like, this is so much more interesting. When you realize, if I tune these two strings to the same thing or something, like, sort of those kind of dumb ideas or something or whatever it is, or whatever, or like what are like counterintuitive, maybe not dumb necessarily, is like,
it's both.
It's
really both. It's dumb
counterintuitive ideas. But those are so often like the times when you have to kind of like fight your way through something and fight something where it's like, that's the moments that you love on some record you recorded or something. You were like, oh, that was so hard to do. Or like, oh, that noise part, like I didn't know what I was doing. I was just so angry at the world or something like that. And
then it becomes really interesting, and then you can kind of figure out a different direction from that.
Totally. Yeah, tell us the secret behind the EQD side.
I feel like I'm always trying to make things that sound like guitar synths, but don't take any effort to actually use.
Oh, sure,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's like the Electro-Harmonic synthesizer with all the sliders and stuff. It's like an awesome thing, but like I feel like you really have to work to dial it in.
Totally.
Or like any more elaborate. It's like a lot of noise pedals and stuff that like there's 45 knobs and you put them all in the right place. You're gonna get this cool sound, but you'll never find the magic combination. That's like I'm always trying to make something like that. Like, I'm a big fan of like, I mean, I guess this one's polyphonic as the FE one gets, which is like imperfect, but has that like latency to it, and I have grown to like it.
I think it sounds wicked. Yeah, that's like sometimes when those things kind of glitch out a little bit, it's awesome. You know, that's kind of the stuff to embrace with that, I think.
So one of the things with this was like trying to get like the attack of the envelope on the input to like just erase that, if that makes any sense. So it's like you hit the string and you don't get the latency, it just kind of swells in.
Yeah.
So that was like the first step of that. And then like making a digital distortion, which is like, there's like something in me that's like, don't ever make a digital distortion, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
It's a really cool thing. So like combining that in there, and then also having a gate pre-delay. It's controlled by the input envelope, so like you can hit a note and it will swell in, but then you get the repeats without any of the noise.
Oh, smart.
So this was like one of several ideas I had for like this elaborate guitar synth, and then I never got past this. I was like, this one's cool, but what else? And then I couldn't think of anything else, and then was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I need to hold on to it. And then this like
it's
within
such
like,
a cool sound.
Within like a month, this idea popped up. So I was like, perfect.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah. And then this middle.
Yeah, let's hear this.
Middle.
What's the secret?
Bad idea. I think every single time my use for this is just start playing notes like try chasing the way that it's doing the thing, but eventually you'll find a combination where it starts to arpeggiate and it's like I'm doing something.
And it's even so beautiful in what's happening, I think, too. And
it's like both a-tonal and like you want it to stop, but also you don't at the same time.
I guess we're talking about the DBA side now, perhaps. All right.
Party mode.
So party mode. This side, it's like, it's kind of based a little bit on some of those, I don't know, the first time you hear like a frozen flanger or something kind of sound. That was like at least a little bit of the start of that. I wanted to do something where it was sort of like riding those kind of waves and doing something which also like mixed in multiple delays and kind of confusion in what you were doing, to where you were sort of like using delays as like ambience or something. So that was that. And then I wanted to keep the controls kind of the same as what you had, where it was time, filter, and span. And so it was like, what does filter mean? What does span mean? And what is time? If you're using like the delay as part of the filter sound, then that's also going to be changing the times, with the filter of some of the delay and stuff like that as well, so that like as the delays are crossing on top of each other, they're kind of creating different filters. And so
I was trying to figure out exactly what is happening in this, and like even when we were shooting a video and I was trying to describe it, I was like, I literally have no idea, but it sounds sick. It does sound like you're like manually flanging, but then it also like you hear a change in the filter frequency and also like a shift in the delay time and how they like interact. Yeah,
because it was like some of like the flange that's being created is from like the different delay times, like just sort of shifting off from each other. So it's like you're kind of controlling the like flange delay or whatever. So it was a little bit of all of that stuff kind of combined into one.
And then when it kind of gets locked in and then repeated and other things will like overlay it,
Oh yeah.
It creates, I don't know, it's a really interesting sound. And there's also like places where you can set it where like as a note's repeating, the resonance builds up and it just becomes like just like a ball of noise,
yeah.
but everything else is still going around it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
You want to make some magic out of it?
It's like 14 pedals at once.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I really like that. It's just so much stuff happening in this little bit of travel. And then,
Oh yeah.
like when it kind of opens up, like how, like, I don't know what the right word for it is. It's like ice crystals.
Yeah,
like,
no, totally. Yeah, for sure.
Like,
that was definitely such a thing. I mean, I don't know. I love those kinds of sounds on like drums and all sorts of stuff, or like that part when it's like a song gets so kind of like piercing, like that frozen wah or whatever. That is, I think, is such a, I don't know, kind of neat sound that you almost like don't hear enough, or I didn't think he did or something.
No,
so,
you know, like it definitely reminds me, like I want to go to like Dawn of Goth, like wreck chorus, but it's like really interesting. You know what I mean?
Heck yeah, right on. I think some of those things, it's like, when there's like, I don't know, some sort of like weird complexity to it or something, and I think some of those old rat courses would have that where there's maybe like the power is sagging or something, like when you're hitting it, so there's a little bit of bend or something's kind of happening. There's like some sort of magic of all of that stuff, and when the sound is sort of kind of complex enough, then it's sort of doing those kinds of things where it just sounds really rich, as even though it's like icy or something, but it's like
it's awesome.
Something
I really
new.
like that a lot. I like it a lot of bass too.
Yeah, me too. It's really cool. All of these sounds are awesome on the bass as well. That was really freaking fun when we were like recording our demos and stuff and playing the bass through it, and even just stuff I've recorded even since. I love having this pedal like just next to me and having, when recording stuff, because there are so many different textures and sounds and everything that's going on. So and I just love it that it's even so wildly different through all the different sounds. So you can just kind of instantly switch things up. I think that it's so useful to sort of like get yourself to like creatively like write a different part for something, or think of something
different.
And
it works really well on like percussive sounds too, and like
totally
in and out and switching between presets and stuff.
Yeah, that is awesome. Switching between the presets is so sick.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Like doing that on the fly.
Effects.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it's technically imperfect, but it is perfectly imperfect.
Yes, totally.
The way that it does it, it's not like an immediate thing. It will just like kind of drag the controls.
But yeah, it's such a cool sound how it does that. You know, that's like so awesome because I don't know. There was always such a thing which I would hate about so many of those kind of like multi effects or all of these things where it'd be like, oops, you knocked the knob, and then it's like loading, and then here comes your sound again, like show ruiner of a pedal or something, you know? So it's so sick that it's like, if you twist it, it's just like, here's this crazy part of this guitar solo or something.
And I mean, I feel like you can incorporate it into stuff with like these dramatic effects, like to switch between the two. Yes. And if it gets caught in like the buffer and repeating, like I think it's really interesting. It is like the first time I heard like the system kind of in action, I was like, should we fix this? I don't know if this is what people are gonna expect. And I was like, no, actually it's really cool. Like I just like, I think like a bunch of hands came in and were like
kind of turned everything real quick. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it sounds awesome, and I think you all did it like perfect. You know, it's exactly, I don't know, there's like, you know, and you know, because you've been building pedals and you're such like a musician yourself, always making stuff as well. It's like, you know that it's like there's certain things that you can't have these things do because it would be just like, you know, ruin the interactivity and stuff like that. So it's
or like you end up just putting a whole bunch of time into doing something that like ultimately just makes it more boring. Like it might be the right thing technically, but it's like
when you have to make that decision, that's what you have.
Less interesting.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean that's what you do as a designer and stuff like that too. Yeah. And so, you know, just sometimes you're like, I don't know, you're working with something that's so like mathematically worked out correctly, but it's just not as cool sounding. So
just sterile.
There you go. Yeah.
It was like right on the verge of doing the thing, but like where it like will grab those like some certain frequency, and then as it like overlays, it'll start to distort just in that frequency range, but you can play over top of it. It was cool.
Yeah, heck yeah. That's what, as we do this, I realize like how much better your guitar sounds than mine, and I'm like, oh man, I need to find the other half of my guitar.
Yeah, it's only half a guitar.
Exactly.
It's fine for being half a guitar. It sounds
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.